Welcome to Focus on a Saturday morning. Remember the classic film Inherit the Wind? It made the argument to America based on the Scopes monkey trial of 80 years ago that evolution, natural science's explanation for life's origins, should be the educational law of the land for American public school students, despite the protests and outcries of many, if not most, Americans decades later. Well, now it's here. The debate comes back as several school districts across the country are attempting to pass policies that would enable disclaimers or equal treatment in teaching of creationism alongside evolution. In fact, a landmark case is now being heard in federal court that pits 8 families and the ACLU against the Dover Area School Board in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that may decide ultimately whether or not creation and Darwinian evolution can be taught side by side here, even in South Florida. To help me debate and discuss this issue, 2 learned scientists, gentlemen in the know in South Florida. Closest to me is Mr. Moin Rahman. He is with the Center for Inquiry of Florida, and he represents them here locally. Moin, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this very stimulating conversation we are going to have over the next 30 minutes.
Indeed we are. And to his left is Mr. Tom DeRosa. Tom is the Executive Director of Creation Studies Institute in Fort Lauderdale. They're a division of Coral Ridge Ministries in Fort Lauderdale. And Tom, briefly, what is the Institute set up to do?
We're set up to bring the creation message to the world, and we call it the truths of creation. And so our basic mission is to look in terms of a more open education, and that's our basic mission. Well,
let's get the debate here on the table. What we're talking about and what is being fought over in court is whether creationism, intelligent design, that the world was created by a deity, a personal God, which was really the law of the land and the tradition in America for almost 2 centuries, and then after the Scopes monkey trial forward, which we saw dramatized in that film, based on that late 1920s case, is that from here on forward, as we've been experiencing for all these generations and decades, that it is evolution only. But Tom, you make the argument that there have been changes in science that bear another look, in that intelligent design may be indeed scientifically a valid way to look at creation and the origins of life. Is that basically it?
Bernie, when we look intelligent design is set up to be scientific. It is a model that represents a conclusion that can be made of living systems. We know that living systems are complex. By definition, anything that is living has a complex system. And so intelligent design is looking at that complex system and has come to the conclusion that it had to be outside the box. It had to be an intelligent designer, because there is an intelligent plan as you look at living systems. And intelligent design movement also speaks in terms of information. In those living systems, we see that there is DNA, there is a code of life. That code had to have its origins from somewhere. It is complex. It is unbelievable. And so when we look at that code of life, that information system, it had to have its origins. So complexity and origins of the origins of language, or the language of the code of life, are the 2 issues that intelligent design bring forth.
And right now what we want to talk about is just the fairness of presenting these 2 hypotheses, these 2 theories side by side, because empirically you can't reproduce God nor the origins of life in a test tube, so they're really competing theories. Now, lawyers for the school board out in Pennsylvania, they have only defended the right to have a modest curriculum change or a disclaimer statement. It's a document which offers ID, intelligent design, as an alternative to Darwinian evolution. It says, quote, gaps in Darwin's theory exist for which there is no evidence, and they refer students for more information on intelligent design to a textbook called Pandas and People.
Right.
What's wrong with that? That seems small enough.
Yeah, simply put, that is not science. If you look at the enterprise of science, what we try to do is to look at observable, repeatable, publishable data, both in the field as well as in the laboratory. When you look at creationism or creationist science or intelligent design, there is simply no evidence to back it up. So where is the supernatural creator, or where is this intelligent agency? There is no clue. So let me simply put it this way. Evolution is a well-substantiated explanation on the origin of species and how they diversify. And in fact, Darwin called it diversification through modification, whereas creationism is simply unsubstantiated speculation. It is speculation. And if you look at science, we need something that is testable. That's what a hypothesis is, a testable statement. Whereas if you look at whether there is a creator or an intelligent agency, there is just no way to test it. So yes, creationism or those modes of thought can be taught in a philosophy class or in a humanities class. It has no place in a science.
But I disagree with that, of course, because, you know, it sounds very nice that evolution is science. But the bottom line is we look at the fossil record, as we look at the evidence, the real hard evidence, it's not there. For instance, you said that we need in science a definition of science. As we all know, and it's very rigorous in the fact that you have to have things that you can repeat, things you can observe, things that you can see. And when we look in terms of evolution, evolution is basically a conclusion. It is a conclusion of big change. When we look at the fossil record, we see incomplete fossil record. We don't see a continuum. As we look in terms of the sources of life and the origins of life, we come to the conclusion that statistically it is impossible. And what really burdens me is the fact that this is being taught as fact in the classroom. What burdens me, Moyne, is the fact that students can't inquire. You know, according to the national standards, we should have the right to inquire. It's a way in which science becomes real. And so inquiry is very important. Why can't we inquire about evolution?
Well, American people, hold on one second. I want to get for you and then have you respond, because the American people have been speaking out. A recent Pew Research Center poll was done nationwide. I think we have it for you there, and you can see 2/3 of Americans basically are open to teaching creationism along with evolution in school. 40% favor replacing evolution entirely with creationism. 42% do believe in strict creationism, that biblical Genesis account. Almost half believe, though, that humans did evolve over time. So obviously, in terms of the American people are saying, this is an open debate. This has not been proven either way. We want information on both sides. In fact, I have an interesting quote from a researcher, a scientist, a Eugenie Scott, in which there is made what the poll reflects is the power of the idea of fairness in American culture. We feel strongly we should always hear both sides. Now, this is a scientist, the executive director for the National Center of Science Education, who actually is skeptical of spiritual things, but believes that we should get both sides. Isn't that fairness in America?
Well, let me kind of rewind a little bit in terms of the history of our own species. If you go back 400 or 500 years ago, before the time of Copernicus and Galileo, 99% or maybe even 100% of the humans on this planet thought the world is at the center of the universe. The sun goes around the earth, all the galaxies and the stars move around the earth, but that was disproved. So science is not an enterprise that goes with what people think. It's not an opinion poll, it's not the Pew Research Center's poll. That doesn't make an issue or break an issue. What we need is hard evidence. So people say, just like what Tom was saying, he was mentioning about complexity, irreducibility. These are the standard arguments that come for creationism. But because things are complex, we don't have to check our intellect at the door. We need to look at it in a very skeptical and we need to, I do agree with him, we need to have argument and debate. That's exactly what we are doing here.
I appreciate Hold that thought, because I'm out of time in this segment, but the next one I'll let you pick up that point, because we are going to have this debate. What does the science show? Where does the evidence point if we can't irrefutably prove either? We're going to talk about that. Creation versus evolution. Just getting started. Hang in there. Good job, guys. Welcome back to our focus. Did man arrive on Earth by virtue of random chance or some unexplained cosmic accident billions of years ago, who then evolved through various animal forms, including primates like apes, to become a man? Or did God, a deity, create mankind in his own image, a special creation by intelligent design as recently as 10,000 years ago? The ramifications and how we answer such a question is critical to life and even public policy, as well as education and science, as we have been focusing in on today, as we again deal with the question